When adversity becomes your superpower, the revolutionary rise of Black women entrepreneurs. Thank you all for being here today. I'm truly honored to stand before you to share some extraordinary insights I gained from my recent conversation with Karen Hawkins. If you don't know Karen, you should. She's not just a researcher, she's a visionary who has dedicated her life to documenting the untold stories of resilience that mainstream media often overlooks. Her groundbreaking work on Black women entrepreneurs has literally rewritten the narrative of what power looks like in America today. Karen isn't just collecting data, she's preserving legacies, challenging systems, and creating a roadmap for generations to come. What I'm about to share with you today might fundamentally challenge everything you think you know about success, adversity, and innovation in America. We've been told a story about achievement that goes something like this: work hard, follow the rules, climb the ladder, be patient, your turn will come. But what happens when the ladder is pulled up just as you reach for it? When the rule book suddenly changes? When hard work isn't just insufficient, it's actually penalized? For countless Black women in America's workforce, these aren't philosophical questions. They're Monday morning realities. And yet, something remarkable, something revolutionary is happening. Despite facing overwhelming adversity, disproportionate job losses, systematic policy setbacks, and persistent barriers to capital, Black women aren't just surviving, they're thriving, they're innovating, they're building. They're leading what Karen Hawkins calls a renaissance in entrepreneurship that is quietly transforming the American economy from the ground up. This isn't just inspiring, it's revolutionary. And it challenges everything we think we know about how innovation actually happens. In 2024, Black women were more likely than men to start new businesses within their communities, especially in sectors like healthcare and social assistance. This completely flips the common narrative of vulnerability into one of leadership and vision. Let that sink in for a moment. The very demographic facing some of the steepest barriers to traditional success is now at the forefront of creating entirely new pathways to achievement, not just for themselves, but for entire communities. This isn't happening despite adversity, it's happening because of it. And that's what I want to explore with you today: how obstacles, when approached with vision and purpose, don't just build character, they catalyze innovation in ways that comfort and privilege simply cannot. Let me share some stunning data that Karen revealed. In early 2025, Gusto reported that nearly half of all new US businesses were started by women. And among AAPI and Black owned startups specifically, women led more frequently than men. This is happening despite persistent hurdles, limited access to funding, increasingly insecure traditional employment due to anti DEI policies, and the added complexity of juggling caregiving responsibilities alongside business ambitions. So, how are they doing it? Meet Tasha Williams. After 15 years in corporate healthcare, Tasha was laid off when her company downsized following cuts to diversity initiatives. With three children to support and a mortgage to pay, panic would have been a reasonable response. Instead, Tasha took her severance package and launched a telehealth service specifically designed for underserved communities. I saw the gaps every day working inside the system, she told Karen. I knew exactly what was missing because I lived it personally and professionally. Today, her company employs 12 people, most of whom are women who also lost their jobs in corporate downsizing. They've served over 5,000 patients who previously had limited access to culturally competent care. The irony, Tasha says, is that I never would have had the courage to leave my stable job if I hadn't been pushed out. Being fired was the best thing that ever happened to me and to the communities we now serve. This pattern repeats itself across the country. Black women are leveraging their unique strengths and community connections. They're building in sectors where they can make a difference. Healthcare services, where 68% of new businesses are female founded. Social assistance, 58%. Retail, and they're creating support networks both online and locally. By centering their businesses on service oriented models rooted in cultural understanding and care work, these entrepreneurs have achieved sustainability even amid broader economic volatility. The surge was catalyzed partly by pandemic era layoffs that disproportionately affected minority communities, but also by generational shifts towards self determination among younger Black professionals who watched their mothers and grandmothers give everything to companies that gave little in return. The results: record high rates of business formation, increased visibility for minority owned brands, creation of jobs within underserved neighborhoods. These women are literally redefining what entrepreneurship looks like in America while laying groundwork for future generations. But this transformation isn't happening in isolation. It's happening against a backdrop of significant systemic challenges. In April 2025 alone, over 100,000 jobs held by Black women disappeared, even as national employment rose overall. This wasn't random. According to Karen's research, it was the direct consequence linked largely to rollbacks on DEI initiatives at both federal agencies and private employers. Sudden unemployment placed financial strain on families already facing wage gaps. Confidence eroded amid increasing uncertainty about workplace equity. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Many affected individuals turn crisis into opportunity, leveraging severance pay or savings to launch side hustles full time or pursue passion projects they previously deferred out of necessity. Consider Ayana Johnson. After losing her executive position at a major tech firm, she faced a moment of truth. I had been the only Black woman in leadership for years, she explained. I was exhausted from code switching, from being both too much and not enough in the same meeting. Instead of seeking another corporate role, Ayana launched a digital marketing agency specifically serving Black owned businesses. I took all the skills I'd developed helping make other people rich and redirected them toward my community, she said. Within 18 months, her agency grew from a solo operation to a team of 15, with revenues exceeding what she earned in her corporate role. More importantly, she's helped over 60 small businesses increase their digital presence and profitability. The freedom I feel now to speak in my authentic voice, to prioritize clients whose missions I believe in, to mentor young women who remind me of myself, it's priceless, Ayana shared. I'm not just making a living, I'm making a difference. Years spent navigating bias meant these founders entered entrepreneurship with deep resilience and often pre existing informal networks ready to support them through transition periods. The result? A rapid pivot from employee status to employer founder roles across several high growth sectors despite macroeconomic headwinds. This demonstrated how forced change can serve as a catalyst for empowerment rather than defeat when met with vision, and inspired others facing similar setbacks nationwide. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not romanticizing adversity. The barriers these women face are real, unjust, and shouldn't exist. But I am highlighting the extraordinary human capacity to transform obstacles into opportunities, a capacity that may be most visible in those who've had no choice but to develop it. Consider this stunning statistic. Despite accounting for nearly half of all new startups recently founded by women overall, including many launched by African American entrepreneurs, female only founding teams still receive just over 2%, 2.3% of total venture capital funding annually. That's just $6.7 billion out of hundreds of billions invested. Securing startup capital remains an uphill battle due largely to entrenched biases within VC pipelines, even though data consistently shows diverse teams outperform homogeneous ones long term. So, what did these founders do? They got creative. They sought alternative routes, such as crowdfunding campaigns targeting culturally aligned audiences. They pooled resources via collective investment clubs focused on uplifting underrepresented leaders. Maya Cooper couldn't get a bank loan to expand her successful catering business despite 5 years of profitability. Rather than giving up, she launched a community based micro investment platform where local supporters could invest as little as $250 in exchange for both financial returns and meal credits. She raised $175,000 from 340 community members, most of whom had never considered themselves investors before. Her business has since tripled in size, employs 14 people from her neighborhood, and those original community investors have seen both financial returns and the pride of helping build something meaningful. Traditional banks couldn't see my value, Maya told Karen, but my community could. Now we're all winning together. These creative financing methods have enabled hundreds more ventures led by Black professional women each year. Ventures that would otherwise stall out before reaching market viability due solely to lack of access to capital issues typical elsewhere in tech and startup spaces. The result? Incremental increases each year since pandemic era lows indicates slow but steady progress toward closing gender and race based funding gaps. More importantly, this inspires the next generation of entrepreneurs who see proof, positive, that resourcefulness plus authenticity can trump legacy exclusionary practices. Now let's take a step back and consider what all this means for each of us, regardless of our gender or race. First, it tells us that innovation doesn't just come from comfortable places. Often, the most transformative ideas emerge from constraint, from necessity, from the edges rather than the center. Second, it suggests that our greatest setbacks might contain the seeds of our greatest contributions if we have the courage to plant them. And third, and this is perhaps the most powerful insight from my conversation with Karen Hawkins, hope is not just an abstract concept, it's a practical tool for building a future after loss or hardship. Even when enduring homelessness, unemployment, single motherhood, divorce, or profound personal loss, you can still chart a path forward rooted in purpose and possibility. So I ask you today, what if your greatest obstacle isn't actually blocking your path? What if it's pointing you toward a new one? What if the door that closed isn't a dead end, but an invitation to build something that never existed before? What if your most painful experience contains your most powerful insight? The stories of these entrepreneurs aren't just about business success. They're about the human capacity to transform pain into purpose, obstacles into opportunities, and limitations into innovations. They remind us that sometimes the most powerful question we can ask isn't, why is this happening to me? But rather, what might this make possible? So today I challenge you to look at your greatest challenge through new eyes, to ask yourself, how might this difficulty be developing in me exactly what I need for my next chapter? Because the truth is, we don't just need more successful people in this world. We need more people who understand that sometimes the path to success isn't straight. Sometimes it winds, sometimes it breaks. Sometimes you have to forge it yourself. And when you do, when you transform adversity into innovation, you don't just change your life, you change the world. Thank you